Are you considering coming to America but are terrified by the foodscape? Well, no worries, I'm going to rank the finest of American cuisine, the kind that you can only get at a greasy spoon in the middle of nowhere. Or at your local bar and grill. Or Denny's. Waffle House. Or IHOP. I digress, welcome to Pointless Tier Lists. This is American Diner Fare. It may seem like a fruitless endeavor to try to rank the greatest food across our amber waves of grain, but not so. Among all the cancer-causing, artery-clogging epitomes of comfort, there are some clear standouts that will remind you the American dream is alive and well, but also that dream demands bodily sacrifice that you have no guarantee of insurance for. First up is the BLT, the king of sandwiches, which you can almost convince yourself is healthy. It does have 2 whole vegetables, to be fair, but is then sandwiched between 2 toasted slices of bread slathered with mayonnaise and filled with enough bacon to give cardiac cath labs a natural dose of epinephrine, and enough salt for a Roman soldier to mistake it as his monthly take-home. It's delicious, though. I'm a vegetarian, but there's no denying it. It's tasty, satisfying, greasy, and it's got some of the best marketing behind it. Of course, most BLTs have the same issue. There's not enough. Who gets full on one? You need 2 or 5 at least, so it gets a B from me for BLT, and probably a D from the American Heart Association. Now a classic, hamburgers. This is a little hard to judge. This item could really run the gamut of every letter grade. It can be heavenly or disgusting depending on so many factors that I literally cannot count them. Is the bun toasted? Is the burger seasoned? Is it the questionable cook who knows what he's doing, or the lame one who follows FDA standards? Furthermore, some factors are from the customer's side. How hungry are they? How long have they been driving? How many mind-altering substances have they consumed within the last 12 hours? Thus, it's given a C, because it can go in pretty much any direction. Next, an unlikely choice, a steak. Just a regular steak, a slab of meat that's cooked to your liking. Look, to each their own, maybe your local place has a cook who's really good at cooking steak, but if you want a steak, please explain your choice of coming to a diner in the first place. Not saying it's wrong, it's just weird. If you're getting a tattoo, you should probably have it done by an artist, not your friend who just says he's pretty good at sketching. This is getting a W for why are you here? Next up, a favorite of childhood meals, and also the true old standby for any restaurant that you go to for the first time. Assuming it's not undercooked, infected, or poisoned, there's kind of a lower limit for how bad it can actually be. Yes, it's chicken strips, crispy, delicious, and basically anywhere. Even fancier restaurants probably have these on the menu for kids, on a disposable menu with 2 other options that are never ordered, because let's face it, why would they be? They're basically perfect, with sweet and sour, barbecue, honey, mustard, or ranch. So popular among youth that the server asking what they want is basically a formality. S tier isn't really appropriate here because chicken strips have their own tier. Next up, a personal favorite, onion rings. Another attempt at pulling the wool over people's eyes. It's vegetable covered with batter and fried until it's appropriately disguised. This is part of a long-standing tradition of hiding vegetables, recently changing as now vegetables are disguised as meat. And if you're Arby's, then meat disguised as vegetables. But I digress. They're delicious, and if you eat them with the ranch dressing, as you should to experience the true Midwestern feel, they're taken up so many notches that I almost put them in S tier. But they're A, because some people don't treat them with respect. It's basically just a modifier, but next is cheeseburgers. Basically a hamburger, but including the thing that is most responsible for obesity. Now look, you may be asking, does one slice of cheese really boost it up that much? And the answer is yes. Yes, it does. Changing gears for a moment to the very pinnacle of American breakfast, it's the number 2, 3, or 4 breakfast combo, eggs, toast, and hash browns. Sure, you could add bacon, but really don't need to, it's basically unbeatable, unless the diner allows you to substitute pancakes or a cinnamon roll for the toast. Yes, I did once find a place that did that. No, they don't do it anymore. Yes, I'm still picking up the pieces of my life. But I digress. S tier, easy choice. Moving on to southern food in the morning, chicken fried steak. Don't know what it is, I didn't either, I had to Google it. According to Wikipedia, chicken isn't even involved. It's called that because it looks like fried chicken, but it's just fried steak. Easily the most indecisive dish here, and also woefully unhealthy. Red meat fried until you can't even tell what it is. It's a double whammy turned triple when you taste it and realize the confusion isn't just in appearance. Yes, I've tried it in a past life. It is the platonic ideal for which one can use the phrase, yeah, that's food. F tier. Food that tastes like food. Another southern classic, biscuits and gravy. Somehow it's a breakfast dish despite the fact that it's, well, biscuits and gravy. It's essentially Thanksgiving leftovers you can make fresh. Look, I don't love it, never did. I think it tastes weird and is out of place. But I can't rate it nearly as harshly as chicken fried steak because 1, it's decisively what it is, and 2, I love biscuits and so does everyone. It's a food of the 1800s that survives into modernity as good, despite the fact that most things back then weren't. But we have biscuits at least. So this gets a D because delicious basis for the weird combination. Switching gears, it's another timeless classic. What could it be? Yes, you guessed it. It is diner coffee. It's bold, possibly burned, hotter than the devil's jacuzzi, and poured from a carafe that's probably a stranger to any form of soap. But it's wonderful and nostalgic. There's no better feeling in the morning than the first swig of black coffee that touches your soul. Especially when you're wearing blue jeans and a button-up. Bonus points if you're in Montana. Don't ask me why. It's just how it is. There's truly no better example of the fact that perfection is overrated. A tier for, I burned my mouth! And yes, I'd like another cup. Well, coffee is delicious. It's bitter. But there's also food that reminds us that life is sweet despite all the bitterness. Pancakes, another classic of carbs on carbs on carbs with butter in between. Then smothered in something which, when we call it maple syrup, raises the collective blood pressure of Canadians into zones that exceed our own. Which is why we do it, so we're not alone. So how do they rank? Well, as good as they can be, their floor isn't nearly as high as chicken strips. Also, not sponsored, but this is actually one case where Perkins has outdone themselves. Some have $3.99 all-you-can-eat pancakes after 9 p.m. It's time to challenge the old pancreas, but not with fake maple syrup, with fake blackberry and apricot syrup. But I digress. A tier. Taking a break from solid food, next is soup of the day. How can I rate this all at once, you ask? Because it's my list. Get over it. It's a D. Not much to say. It might not even be soup of the day, but soup of the week, soup of the month. Who knows? I had to wash out a giant pot of this once. It took me 30 minutes because the soup and pot had fused together. But I digress. Now a close relative of soup, chili. A wild card if there ever was one. What's in it? Who knows? Not us. Possibly not even the people who made it. Beans, probably. Meat, definitely. Tomatoes, hey, if it makes you feel better. But what meat? It's probably fine. But you're a little suspicious, aren't you? So it gets a C. For possible cannibalism. Back to breakfast, we're looking at omelets. Not the French kind, though. This is big and bulky, and unlike my computer's power supply unit, fully modular. What would you like in that omelet? Veggies, meats, fungus, Pier 1 imports, Jared Kushner's car keys, basically anything you might desire. A tier, enough said. We've covered food and drink, but it's time for the middle ground between. Milkshakes, a true gift to humankind. Thin enough to drink, but substantial enough to combat all movement within the lower intestine. Chocolate, strawberry, or what's the third flavor? Grows in beans. It's concentrated. It's really expensive. It's a term used to mean the opposite of BDSM. Vanilla, that's it. Milkshakes are good. Milk and I don't get along, but it's these types of treats that bring me and my digestive system to their knees. Milkshakes, Frosties, malts. Sorry, colon, the devil is due. Call me Star Platinum the world, because everything is coming to a stop. S tier for so what if I'm lactose intolerant. Lastly, everyone's favorite, French fries. Salty, crispy, oily, starchy pinnacles of the culinary arts. Now look. I want to give these an S rating, but let's think about this. Where's the floor for fries? I've certainly had bad ones, though it's very rare. But think about fries in isolation. No sauces, no dips, nothing. They're amazing. But are they S tier? Yeah. Yeah, they are. Plus, they have to be with milkshakes. Because if you dip fries in a shake, that ends up in a new tier of its own. I'm going to call that MDMA, because it's ecstasy. I didn't actually realize until after I'd already recorded this, but I had an extra in there, so I'm going to put that in its own tier. E for extra. Thanks for watching. This has been a pointless tier list of American diner food. Do you agree with my rankings? What should I have included? Let me know in the comments. Don't subscribe, it takes too long.